Welcome back to HomeSpot, everyone. So today I'm going to show you how to turn this ginormous mess into this. And what a world of difference that makes right there. But nonetheless, I'll show you how to make it step by step and we'll go from there. So today we're going to be making a shoe rack in hopes of avoiding this ginormous disaster here. Now I do have a set of twin girls. They're 4 years old, 4.5 we'll say. They're pretty good about putting things back. However, the shoes don't really have a home. They know generally the shoes go in the closet, but that's about it. They'll come in here and throw them in here, and obviously you get this. Now, my thinking, my hoping, is that if I build them a shoe rack, they'll know that their shoes go on the shoe rack, thus eliminating this over here on our end. And so hopefully I'm right. Now, I do want to show you this over here on my end. This I did build myself along with this. So I'm going to try to keep it with the same design language, same style, hoping to avoid this in the future here and go from there. So let's get to work. All right, everyone, so in front of me I already have all of my wood laid out here. Again, this is all from my scrap bin here. None of this was actually paid for and purchased specifically for this project. So here's kind of my thought process behind all of this here. I want to make it cheap, I want to make it good looking, and I want to make it sturdy. My 4-year-olds are not the easiest with their furniture, I will say that, so it's got to be sturdy. So here's kind of what I'm thinking, and you're going to see a lot of these slats right here. These are going to be pretty much the main building block of this whole project here. So with these, I'm going to glue all 3 of them together like this to make the leg. Shave off or cut off the rounded off edges to make them nice and square. And these are going to be my legs. These next ones right here, again, more slats. I'm going to glue 5 of them together here to make the actual shelves. Take the rounded corners off so they join nicely. I might leave the rounded on the edges here because it looks pretty good actually. Next, this is going to be my top here, the very top. It's a little bit thicker. It's going to be a little bit wider here just to match the design language of my other furniture in that same room. And as you can see here, there is actually a hole over here on a few of these, and they all have the hole either on that side or this side. So I'm going to take these and use this to cover them, kind of like breadboard ends over here on the end. And that's pretty much my thought process behind all of this. I just honestly, enough talking and let's get to work. So first we start by taking all of our white slats, running them through the table saw to get that rounded edge off of the board pretty much so we can have a nice flush fit whenever we go to glue them all up. We start with the smaller slats and move up to the bigger ones for the top shelf. Once we have all of the edges cut down and are nice and flat, we move on to gluing them up. Now this part was probably the part that was the most time consuming just because I don't have a lot of clamps, even though it looks like I do. I had to glue one piece up and then wait for the glue to dry before I could move on. But nonetheless, I used pretty much every single clamp that I had. Now getting it as close to straight as humanly possible in this step would actually prevent a lot of sanding in the back end. But nonetheless, it still wasn't perfect. It still required quite a bit of sanding, so the more accurate you can be here, the better. While the glue on my shelves was drying, I went and moved over to the slats that are going to be my legs. I sanded them down beforehand so the glue would have something better to stick on. And again, just glue them up, spread the glue as evenly as possible here. Get plenty of glue on there, that way it sticks. Once you have everything glued up, make sure you clean up all the screws out with a damp rag. That way you don't have to clean it up in the future. It just makes everything so much more simple. our last and final glue up is the 3 bottom shelves. So pretty much same process here. You spread glue, and you get it as accurately as possible and use as much clamps as you possibly can. Alright, now that the glue has dried up, and this is after a couple of days here, so after the glue has dried up, take it out of its clamps and start sanding down all of the imperfections. And same thing with the legs. I just did 2 legs at a time here to make the process a little bit faster. But nonetheless, take some sandpaper. I believe I'm actually using a pretty coarse sandpaper at 80 grit. Once you're done with that, move on over to the table saw and cut them down to final length here. Or actually, this is not final length, but it's a close final length. Same thing with these shelves. Run them through the table saw one more time using my sled here. Get them down to final width, I should say. Once the top shelf is up to or down to final width, I glue these boards on the end to eliminate the holes that are there. Instead of actually covering them up, I'm going to cover it up with this piece of wood. Now I leave it long, the pieces I leave long for now, and you'll see why here in a second. So I'll clamp it up, and once the glue is dry, I will actually take just my circular saw and cut the long pieces off. Hey everyone, so just a quick little update here, and as you can see, we've come a long way after a lot of sanding and still a lot of sanding left to go. The sanding that we have left to go will be hopefully a little bit easier. We're just going to be going through the grids and making everything super smooth. But let me kind of just give you an idea of what I'm thinking, and let me actually just set you guys down right here. All right, there we go. So here's what I'm thinking. Now, as you can see, this is going to be at the top of the board here. It's upside down, so this will be the top. Obviously the legs here. The legs, these used to be the white slab that I showed you guys earlier. Now they're obviously all together, joined up, smoothed out, and good to go there, a little bit thicker. And this is right here. These are going to be my shelves. I have 3 of these guys set down here. And as far as like joining them together, I'm thinking I'm going to cut a groove, or 3 grooves on each leg, and just make dados and just slide them in there. That way I don't have to worry about screwing them in or anything like that, and obviously gluing them in board. That way they are super strong and go from there. But that's about it. When we're actually getting really close to finishing up here with the mock-up. I do still have to cut these to length. I already have my length set up, and again, I already have everything mocked up here. So cut these to length, cut the legs to length, do a final mock-up, a dry mock-up, and get to finishing pretty much. So let's get to work. Let's keep on chugging along. So the shelves here get cut down to final length here. So I feel like this is instant gratification here. You're literally going from this that's all wonky to that's all really nice, super crisp and sharp. Nice, I like it, I dig it. Okay, so now we're setting up our dado stack. That way we can cut the grooves in the legs to accept the shelves here. Once the dados are cut in my back two legs, I then transfer all of the measurements to my forward two legs, just because the forward two legs, the groove isn't going to go all the way through. It's only going to go halfway through, and I'm going to use my chisels to actually make that through cut, or that non-through cut I should say. But nonetheless, I'm not very fond of chisels, at least at the moment. I've had these chisels for about 2 years. I used them once and got discouraged. I'll be honest, I got very discouraged by them. And now I decided, hey, let's try it again. You know, I'm a better woodworker now. And still not the best, a whole lot better than the very first time that I used them. But still, I know I have some practice to go, but nonetheless, it worked pretty well overall. All right, everyone, so as you can see, we have a dry assembly finally. So let's get a little more into detail here, and I'll show you one really bad screw up that I have, and it's completely my fault, and it's very annoying. But see, as you can see back here, the way I jointed them, the wood or the shelf actually goes into the leg itself, which is pretty strong actually, very strong for that part. In the front, same thing, but it only goes halfway, so there is no groove in the front, which conceals it. And of course, I'll just take care of that later. Over here, however, not so much and not so pretty. Somehow, some way, I made the groove on the wrong side. I made it on this side instead of on the back side. So I just literally took the leg and ran it through the table saw, made the groove all the way through. Now I'm literally gonna just make a cube, stick it in there, glue it down, sand it down, and it'll be like nothing ever happened, just because it will be paint over it. So not too big of a deal, just an annoyance. And so I did a couple other things here. So the bottom here is a lot taller. It's about 9 inches compared to the top ones here. These are only about 6 inches, and I did do that on purpose here, just so we can get a little more clearance, you know, if my girls have boots or something like that. But just a little dry run here. Shoe fits in there perfectly, and I did try to future-proof it. And just, you know, this pair of my shoes right here, it fits perfectly there as well. And pretty ugly shoe is what it looks like, but let's put that back on. So we're pretty much done. Just gotta make the cube now and sand it down. Again, we're gonna go through the grit, so that should go pretty fast now that everything's smoother and get to painting. So let's finish up. Now for final sanding here, just scribe a pencil mark all the way down, and once the sander has removed all of it, that means you're done or it's time to go to the next grit. But nonetheless, we're just going through the grits here. Now on the finishing here, I'm just using white paint. I did thin it down with some water as well. I'm using my HVLP sprayer to spray it down here. Now after I spray it, after every single coat, I do go over it with either 400 or 800 grit sandpaper just to take off the edges here. Now as far as the poly, does get a total of 5 coats on it altogether, just because I know there was going to be a lot of usage, especially on the shelves. This part here, this could have definitely been prevented if I had just planned a little bit earlier. I could have easily taped off the grooves here and a piece of the shelves. Now the reason I'm doing this here is I know the glue that I use does not stick very well to paint. So I need to have bare wood on both the grooves and the shelves. So I take the measurements here, that way I don't have to measure it with the ruler every single time. And as you can see, I just scribe pretty much a cut right there. And a cut on the other side, and pretty much just chisel it out just slightly. Again, we're not trying to remove any wood, we're just simply trying to remove the top coat of paint there. And then lastly, the last step before putting everything together is finding a way to attach the top. And I actually hadn't thought about this up until pretty much the end of it here. So easiest thing that came to mind was just some pocket holes and pocket hole screws. Here we put a dab of glue on every one of the grooves, and we just take the cheapest you can find paintbrush here and just spread it out through the whole groove, the bottom, both sides. And I actually don't put any on the shelf, so I put a lot on the groove so it has enough for the shelf itself. And here is where the magic starts to happen. Here is where you could actually start to see final assembly and final product here. Hey everyone, so finished with the shoe rack here. Now this is one of the simpler projects I've done here. Very good for a beginner to amateur woodworker, I would say. I believe I made it look a lot harder than what it actually was, just because I didn't have any of the longboards. I had to glue them all together. But honestly, if you have already wider boards, then by all means, your battle is already halfway done. Literally, it's just 4 or 3 shelves, a top, 4 legs, and you're done. Some glue and some screws and good to go. But nonetheless, I've already tested out in the room. Looks like it fits 4 pairs of shoes on each shelf, including the bottom, so 4, 8, 12, and 16. If you wanted to put more on top, you could. In my case, it looks like we're not going to need to do that. So we're good to go. And now that I'm done, and I guess this is my second video now, so I can officially say browse the channel and subscribe. Have a good night, everyone.